What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is America's massive military plane that is named after I'm going to say adult store, just because we're early on in the video and we don't want YouTube to limit these ads. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say that. But what a random video title name.
I have no idea what that is, so I'll be interested to hear more about it.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I'm innocent. I don't know what that means.
You know what that means. It doesn't mean you've seen it. You know what it means,
I don't know what
purely.
it is.
Obviously, I don't know the name. It would be interesting to see the name, I guess. I don't know.
So it must be like an American one.
I don't know. I guess so.
I feel like this video is just going to tell us. We don't know anything
we're going to find
about
out.
it.
Smash that like button, guys. Smash the subscribe button as well. We'd seriously appreciate it. The more you guys subscribe, the happier it makes us feel. Well, we're happy anyway because we've got over 150,000 subs, which is insane. But subscribe, why not?
But 151 sounds nice.
It does. And smash that like button as well, you absolute legends. Because the more you guys like this video, the more other people see it. And maybe they want to know who this airplane is named after and find out why.
Also, we're nearly 300 patrons.
And we're also almost at 300 patrons, so please check out that.
Moving up in the world.
Means a lot. We've got our movie channel going good. And are you ready?
I am.
Let's get into it. America's massive military airplane that is named after an adult star. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's go.
Meet Fred, the largest strategic airlifter in the United States Air Force.
That's a normal name,
and
isn't it?
Fred is a weird one, with many unique features that boggles your mind, like the 90-degree rotating landing gear,
Oh,
the
wow.
fact that it can kneel down, the ability to travel in
It's a big
reverse.
boy.
Yes, in reverse. And its strange passenger deck with seats that face backward
Ooh.
toward the rear of the airplane.
That's weird.
Being a strategic airlifter, Fred can transport anything, be it submarines, trucks, or intercontinental ballistic missiles, except for one thing, which would have
Fred?
looked so cool on Fred's resume. But it's not what you think.
You're
Now,
right,
you're
it's a
probably
beast.
curious
Yeah.
who this Fred is. Well, Fred is the nickname for Lockheed's C-5 Galaxy transport aircraft. I just couldn't say earlier what Fred stands for, because YouTube doesn't like profanity during the first 30 seconds
There
of the
you
video.
go.
But since we're in the clear now, meet Fred. Ridiculous economic disaster. The C-5
Wow.
Galaxy got this nickname because of the enormous cost overruns during the development of the aircraft, which was due to the ever-changing capability requirements by the US Air Force. But aside from Fred, the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy has other
Why
nicknames,
has it got
like
Travis on
Big
it?
Mac, Cumulus
He's
Illuminus,
Gia.
and Linda Lovelace. Ooh, I see some of you who are lucky teenagers in the 70s recognize that name.
Oh, it's from
Linda
the
Lovelace was an
school.
American actress who specialized in adult films. The C-5 Galaxy can kneel and take huge loads from both ends.
That
And
is
that
mad.
reminded some people of our late actress. So before we get into the unique features of
So
the
she's
C-5
not even
Galaxy,
alive anymore?
you should probably know.
Well, she might be an old.
Said late.
Oh yeah, there you go. Not even alive anymore. So it's named after her, obviously. But
Right.
I tell you what though, I don't know if this plane is actually still used or not because it was a disaster apparently. But it does seem insane the fact that
There's stuff they can do, yes.
stuff it can do and the fact
Weird,
that
like,
that can go in
mad.
the air with a truck. That is quite mind blowing.
It is mad.
It is mad.
About Fred's relationship with Boeing 747. Spoiler alert, the 747 can do some stuff that Fred couldn't.
Oh wow. But Fred can do stuff for Boeing.
During the
couldn't do.
1960s,
I'm sure of it.
Lockheed,
Can't count your
Douglas,
truck.
and
Sure of
Boeing
it.
competed to design a new large military aircraft, the C-5 Galaxy. While the US Air Force considered the Boeing design to be superior to that of Lockheed, Boeing lost the competition to Lockheed's less expensive design.
Okay.
But
All
don't
about
feel
money.
bad
Yeah.
for Boeing, because they went on to develop the highly successful Boeing 747 civilian airplane, which took advantage of the high bypass engine technology that they had developed for the C-5A.
Oh wow.
While there are lots of speculations that Boeing 747 came out of the C-5 program, it appears not to be the case, as Boeing's C-5 design differed quite a bit from that of the Boeing 747. But enough with history. Let's shift gears and go in reverse, just like Fred can. But there's a problem. While the C-5 can travel backwards on the ground using reverse thrusters, it doesn't have a backup camera like today's cars do.
So you don't know what you're
The
hitting.
solution is to open the rear cargo
Wow.
door, where a spotter would sit. All it takes is to advance the throttles off of the idle just a little bit on the reverse thrusters for Fred to move backward. And there
Yeah, I
is
don't
no
think any other
beeping
plane
when
can do
going
that.
backwards,
No, I don't
like you
think
hear on trucks and bigger vehicles. But the truth is, many aircraft can back up
Oh.
on their own thrusters, be it an old Saab
I've
37
never seen one
Viggen
back up.
or military transport aircraft
never seen
like
a
the
plane back up?
C-17 Globemaster
No, 'cause
or an
the commercial planes like what we get on, It's normally got a weight at the front and it pushes it. That's not itself backing up.
Oh, because
I don't think it is.
Are you stupid? Every time we reverse out to go on the runway, we reverse.
Yeah, I may be absolutely dobbing myself in as an idiot here, but I'm pretty sure there's the chuck with a weight on the front is pushing that back.
Oh.
And then this, you know what I mean? I think.
Okay.
Let us know if I'm an idiot, not in the comments, please.
You're not an
Hopefully
idiot,
not.
don't worry. You're not an idiot.
Hopefully not. Just may go wrong.
Just might have got it wrong,
An
but you're
older
not an idiot.
C-130 Hercules. Similarly to military aircraft, commercial jets like the DC-9 can also travel backwards
Yes.
using reverse
Some of
thrusters,
them.
but they almost never do. See, reverse thrusters are most commonly used during landing to decelerate a fast-moving aircraft by reversing the direction of thrust. With a few exceptions, civilian aircraft are banned from using reverse thrusters to back up at airports. And that's why you typically
There
see
you
a
go.
small tug
I didn't
moving
even
the
know that.
aircraft out of the gate.
That's the bad boy I was
The
thinking
ban
of.
is mainly due to safety concerns, as the reverse thrust can stir up debris that can damage the engine or anyone nearby. Reverse thrust is also very loud and consumes fuel unnecessarily.
Okay.
In addition, new high-pass engines cannot safely use
hilarious.
the reverse thrusters until they're already moving. Sounds like reverse thrusters can be pretty dangerous on the ground. But what would happen if you reverse the engine's thrust mid-flight?
Ooh. What would
What would?
happen?
You may be surprised, but thrust reversers are routinely used mid-flight on the C-5 Galaxy. According to pilots, Fred's wings produce so much lift that the airplane doesn't want to come down from altitude.
Wow.
But with a little encouragement, by putting on thrust reverse on the two inbound engines, Fred descends
plane, we're
quite
going down.
quickly. In fact, reverse thrust can be used on many aircraft while in flight in order to speed up the rate of descent, which could
Okay,
reach
that makes
between
sense.
10,000 feet to 18,000 feet per minute.
Wow.
The C-5 Galaxy can also carry passengers, since
It
it
is
has
huge.
a 73-passenger deck above the cargo
oh my
hold.
days, that's rammed.
But unlike commercial jets, the seats on this deck are facing backwards for one simple reason. Back in the day, Lockheed discovered that rear-facing seats are actually safer for passengers
Oh, wow.
compared to
That's why
front-facing
children
seats.
sit in
That's because when
rear-facing seats.
I've never seen a child sat in
Not
this.
an airplane, in
Oh,
cars.
oh, in car, but you mean
That's why
the buggy
car
you put on
seats-
is facing backwards?
Car seats sit backwards.
Yeah.
And in America, particularly in America, I don't know about the rest of European. UK is not so hot, isn't so hot on it, but in America, most of their children rear face until 5, 6, 7.
Wow. Why don't commercial planes have us doing that then?
I thought you were about to say, why
Yeah.
don't cars
They
have
just want
doing
us to
that?
come out. Yeah, okay, well,
The reason we don't do
what,
that.
the driver facing one way and the
Yeah.
cars all everyone else the other way?
You
That'd be
know,
so
There's a reason we
unsociable.
don't do that, James.
No, but on a plane, if everyone's facing the same way, it don't make a difference.
No, doesn't.
Because you don't see the pilot, do you? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Aircraft come to a sudden stop, say during a crash, passengers can put their head and back against the seat, and the seat would absorb most of the destructive energy of a crash.
Okay.
Oh.
But if it's safer, why don't commercial jets have
He's
backward
answering my
seats?
questions.
According to one theory, it's because forward-facing seats are more profitable for airlines. Let me explain. Since backward seats
What about
need
that
to
money?
be able to absorb the crash energy, they would have to take more strain from the passengers when compared to forward-facing seats.
Okay.
Therefore, the backward seats have to be reinforced to absorb this energy, which would make them heavier. Adding weight
Money
to
then.
Yeah.
aircraft means increased fuel consumption, which translates to less profit for the airline. So kudos to Lockheed for going backwards in the name of safety and providing some nice resting area for the crew of the C-5,
Ooh, that's
Oh,
which
wow.
includes bunk beds and a nice lounge area. The washroom is roomy as well. By the way, it's my dream to fly in the C-5, so if you get connections, hook me up.
Maybe one day will. Maybe one day. I'd love to go in one as well. We've got an ad to see Legends in a second. But I would definitely love to go in one.
I like to walk around it. I'm not sure I want to go up in the sky.
It's an experience to say you've done, isn't it? We'll see Legends in a second.
While the C-5 Galaxy is
It's
the
crazy that it
largest
opens a
cargo
lot.
plane
I
in
know,
the
innit?
United
It's
States
mad.
Air Force, it is not the largest in the world.
Oh,
The
okay.
Ukrainian AN-225 Maria, which was destroyed by Russian forces, was able to carry 250
That's
tons.
sad.
It's been reported that a
It's a
second
big plane,
Maria
isn't it?
is now being worked
Big,
on in a
big boy.
secret facility. Apparently, all the essential components for a second airframe had been previously manufactured. But with Maria gone, for now, the largest cargo airplane is the AN-124 Ruslan, which is able to carry 150 tons of cargo.
Ooh.
That is mad.
The C5 Galaxy, in
As if these
comparison, can only
exist.
carry
I know.
125 tons, which is still a lot, as it equates to 25,844,746 ping pong balls. But on a practical note, you can fit one CH-47 Chinook tandem rotor helicopter inside Fred's
Wow.
cargo bay, or you could fit 3 AH-64 Apache helicopters. For Tetris lovers, removing the rotor blades and stabilizers allows for fitting 6 Apache helicopters into the
6
C5.
helicopters.
You could also fit one Coast Guard boat, or even a Mark V Special
Just as you
Operations
do.
boat.
Wow.
Even the fuselage of a C-130 would fit inside. The
Look at
C5 can
that.
also accommodate the transport of 10 light armored vehicles, weighing 12 tons each, or fit in 2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles. An A-10 Warthog would also fit, and so would 36 standard pallets. After all, the C5 is a strategic airlifter.
Can take
Just
anything.
to put things in
Yeah.
perspective, during Operation Desert Storm, C5 Galaxies only made up 12% of the combined airlift fleet,
Okay.
yet they carried 44% of all airlift cargo.
Wow. They took a lot of stuff.
The
You can
US
do
Air
both, can't
Force
you?
Yeah.
even managed to airdrop
It's
a
got space.
Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missile from the C5 as they were
Wow.
conducting research to use the C5 Galaxy as a platform to launch nuclear missiles. Upon the extraction of the load, the ICBM was released from its cradle, after which the Minuteman engines ignited, proving that you can launch ICBMs from airborne platforms.
Damn.
But what was that one thing that Fred couldn't carry?
Not
That
maybe a
would
London
be
bus.
the space shuttle. If you're wondering why the Boeing 747 could transport the space shuttle, but not the C5, it all came down to the tails.
Wait, what? A
We
boat?
just carry it like that.
I didn't know a Boeing did just take that. Is that
It
to take
just-
it to the land, the launch site? I guess. That is mental, isn't it? The fact that that is flown with that on it. That is mad.
Is that safe?
But you'd expect it to be able to do it because it can do everything else, wouldn't you? So let's find out
That's
why.
just mad.
The C5 has a T-tail, which would have been affected by the airflow turbulence created by the shuttle.
Oh, okay.
It was the
nothing on
747's
top.
regular tail that won the competition. But what's interesting is that
Yeah,
even though the
it's-
C5 is capable of airlifting main battle tanks, they rarely do. Fred is capable of transporting 2 M1 Abrams tanks at the same time, but the US Air Force would rather not do that. The first reason is that airlifting tanks is incredibly expensive and inefficient.
A
A
lot of
more
fuel it
efficient
costs.
way of
Yes.
transporting tanks and even other armored vehicles over long distances is by rail or sea.
Okay.
As a result, tank airlifts are incredibly rare, but they have happened on occasion. The largest airlift of tanks using C5 Galaxy happened in 1973 during the Arab-Israeli War, when Israeli forces suffered heavy losses and needed to be resupplied by the United States.
Just flew tanks in.
The US
as you do.
government sent 29
Oh.
M60A1s and M48A3s to Israel using C5 Galaxies, while the remaining 200 units were transported by sea. And even though the C5 could carry 2 tanks at once, it only carried 1 because of concerns over the airframe.
Okay.
Similarly
No
today,
point risking
while
it.
the C5s
No.
can transport 2 60-ton M1 Abrams tanks at the same time, the sheer weight of these vehicles results in a lot of stress on the airframe, wearing out the airplane prematurely.
Don't
This
last
is why
as long, man.
C5s
No.
only carry 1 Abrams tank at a time, and only if an emergency
It's crazy they
delivery
can even
is
carry one.
required.
I know, innit? And it'd be interesting. Let us know again if you do know in the comments below. Was it much quicker? I assume it was taking them by the 25 what came by plane. Were they there like a week before the 200 by boat? You know what I mean?
Be interesting.
I imagine it were, but that's the advantage of it. If you need it there
Yeah.
quick, then it'll get there, won't it?
It's worth noting that back in June of 1989, Fred carried 4 light tanks at once when it performed a world record airdrop. The C-5B airdropped 4 42,000-pound
Oh my, it
Sheridan
dropped the
tanks and
tanks.
73 combat-ready troops over Fort Bragg in North Carolina. The paratroopers, though, had to wait for the tanks to go first, because scientific research shows that a tank landing on you is directly correlated with ruining an otherwise fine day.
Definitely. As if they
The
sent
C-5
a
also
tank
can
has
do
one of
that.
the highest operating costs of any aircraft in the US Air Force at $100,941
An
per
hour.
hour. But it's
Yeah,
still
we just
slightly
want
behind
£1
the B-2
£5.
bomber and the E-4 Night Watch. One of the reasons for this
It's
high
mad.
cost is fuel. Aside from the 125 tons of cargo, the C5 Galaxy also has to carry fuel, and a lot of it. In fact, Fred's 12 integral wing tanks can hold
12.
51,450 gallons of
Fred
jet
is
fuel,
massive.
which is equivalent
is a big
to
boy,
6
innit?
railroad tankers. And sometimes that's not even enough, so the aircraft has to be
What's mad,
refueled
innit?
mid-flight.
That
With
still
all
blows
that
my mind.
weight, it makes you wonder, what kind of landing gear can handle the sheer weight
True.
of this massive bird? The landing gear of the much heavier Airbus A380 has 22 tires. But the C5 Galaxy, even though lighter, has an additional 6 tires for a total of 28.
It's because
But
you could have
that's
stuff
for
in
a
it.
good reason. The A380 can only operate out of airports with reinforced runways and taxiways due to its weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the C5 was designed so that it could operate out of all kinds of runways. Fred's
Land wherever.
28
Yeah.
tires and their unique design spread out the weight of the airplane over a
Wow.
larger area, which allows it to taxi on unpaved surfaces, including snow and even
Oh
mud.
my
So we can
days.
go through snow.
Yes, surprisingly, mud, or more correctly, wet soil, does not interfere with the functionality of the landing gear, at least in this artificially soaked soil. During testing, it was found that Fred had the most difficulty, that is, requiring the highest thrust only on the first and second passes.
Okay.
After that, the C5 would have compacted the soil enough to make it easier to taxi. Lockheed even performed similar tests on soil that was covered by 12 to 14
Wow.
inches of
Just
snow.
straight
Not
through it.
surprisingly, the aircraft
I
had
struggled to
no
get through
issues
snow.
taxiing around and even unloading its cargo. Finally, the C5 can also take off from unpaved runways, with most of the runway taking off as well.
That is a lot of dust gone
Mm-hmm.
up on it. Wow.
Several other considerations were taken into account when designing Fred's landing gear.
Ooh, is that rotating?
One aspect was the C5's
Mid-air.
requirement for a wide center of gravity range, which allowed it to transport mixed loads. Secondly, Fred has a unique ability to kneel to minimum ground clearance, which helps in loading the cargo. As a result of this requirement, having 4 nose tires allowed for the spreading of the weight when loading heavy cargo such as tanks.
Okay, makes
Additionally, kneeling is especially important as it can lower the cargo deck to the height of a truck bed, which facilitates loading and unloading operations. These special requirements meant that in order to fit the wheels inside the fuselage, the landing gear assembly had to be designed so it could rotate 90 degrees before stowage.
sense. Wow, so it does
Yeah.
rotate
In
mid-air.
case you're wondering how the tires are changed, you could either jack the whole aircraft up in order to perform maintenance on all the tires and brakes, or you could do it individually, because each set of wheels can also be individually raised for easy access during maintenance.
That's the easy way to do
Yeah.
it, isn't it? It says a jack in the whole
The
thing
C5s
up.
were produced in 2 batches. One of the batches was defective to say the least. 81 C5As were produced between 1968
81.
and 1973, and 50 C5Bs were produced between 1985
I've
and
got a lot of 'em.
1989. The defects surfaced in the mid-1970s when wing cracks were found in the C5A fleet. The decision was made to limit the maximum weight on all C5As to 50,000 pounds.
Okay.
Then 77 C5As underwent a rewinging program between 1981 and 1987 at a cost of $7.1 billion in 2023
Just to
money.
re-wing them. Oh my days.
The redesigned wing featured a newly designed aluminum alloy, which didn't exist when the aircraft was first produced.
Okay.
New wings have a structural service life of over 50,000 hours. The C5Bs, of course, were already built with new wings
Well,
and
look
more
at
than
that, taking
100
off.
additional
Crazy.
system modifications that improved reliability over the legacy C5As. In 1998, the US Air Force decided to further modernize the fleet of C5s based on a study that showed 80% of the C5 airframe service life was still remaining.
Okay, that's good.
As a
Yeah.
result, 52
You put all that money
C5
in.
Galaxies were upgraded to the C5M Super Galaxy variant, with the remaining airframes being
at that.
retired in 2017.
So many.
The C5M Super Galaxy featured new avionics, glass cockpit, new autopilot, and most importantly, new engines, the General Electric CF6 engines. The new engines, however, were not new technology. The CF6 engines entered service in 1971.
Oh, wow.
Nevertheless, they had been upgraded over
they
the
do the
years
job.
or
Yeah,
used
exactly.
extensively on Boeing 767s and 747s. They provide 20% more thrust than the legacy TF39 engines and were also much quieter.
Bonus
The
all round,
fleet
that
of
sounds
Super
like.
Galaxy
Sounds good.
is expected to remain in service at least until 2040.
That's it, the accuracy required to do that mid-air. That's mad, isn't it?
It is.
If you want to, I feel like we should do a video when we feel in the air, but there's got to be one out there. Let us know if you
Yeah,
want us
definitely.
to.
That's just such a mad concept.
It is a mad concept. Wow. It's named after an adult store. I'll still say that just in case YouTube Limited ads are listening. But it's a beast of a plane.
It is massive. Yeah, it's just huge, and the things it can do as well.
Yeah, it's insane. Didn't even know it existed, to be honest with
Made
you.
human men look put to shame.
Smash that button if you enjoyed, guys. Smash that subscribe button as well. Let us know what else you want us to react to in the comments below. And what's your view?
Have a fantastic day.
And we will see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.